Let's go! We are breaking down this very good Clemson defense and one big weakness that they had last year, which was defending running backs just in general, right? We have heard the point over and over about Clemson's rush defense not being all that good. Well, that actually extended into the passing game as well, where every game pretty much that Clemson played versus a decent opponent, they gave up huge gains to the running backs. So Nate Frazier ended up not being a pass-catching back for Georgia at all, right? He didn't have a reception the rest of the season that went over 20 yards, and you'll see here that Carson Beck has Nate Frazier wide open in the flats. So now we go to Appalachian State. This game already a blowout. There are quite a few Clemson backups in this game, but you'll see right here that this time they actually do cover it well, the running back leaking out right here, but you'll see throughout Clemson had some issues tackling the running backs out into the flats, 21 on some roller skates, and of course we're off to the races here with Appalachian State for a 19-yard gain. So now we go to week 3, where this ended up being only a 14-yard gain, but this is a play that LSU runs quite a bit themselves, where they show a run of some sort and they actually just leak Caden Durham into the flats. You'll see that this vertical hopefully holds this corner, and your hope is that nobody is going to be out here for an easy pitch and catch. Once again, NC State playing a backup quarterback, and this only goes for 14 yards, and this time you do get a better tackle. So I've always found this interesting. Tony Elliott, Clemson legend, obviously has had mixed results as the offensive coordinator, or should I say head coach of Virginia, but this is something you just see quite a bit. One thing that I'm not showing you are the plays prior. Virginia obviously down 21 in the hurry-up. Clemson really struggled with teams that did play quickly, and you could see, I mean, look at this. Nobody accounting for the running back in the backfield. Obviously, if Calandra had actually just worked to the flats, this ball could have been out here by then. And then guess what? Pace, who is a decent ACC running back, is able to turn this into a 25-yard gain. Once again, easy completions and easy explosive plays. So before that Virginia game, there was a 3-game stretch where they didn't give up any explosives to running backs out of the backfield, but that stretch was against Stanford, Florida State, and Wake Forest. We get to the blowout loss, and you could see that a lot of these plays happen early in the game when the games were still very much competitive. This time, Louisville is running a middle screen, and what makes this truly effective and why these types of plays work so well versus Clemson is that they have a very good defensive line. They want their defensive line getting upfield, generating pressure, getting into the quarterback's lap, but that does open yourself up for little middle slip screens. Charles Scott at LSU was so good at these, and all you really need to hope for is that your running back is able to outrun a trailing defensive tackle. And once again, here's two who just made a good tackle you saw a minute ago versus NC State. What this forces you to do, if you're able to get the ball to the running back out of the backfield, for one, it is an easy completion to the running back. But number two, in theory, the running backs are better after the touch than receivers or tight ends. So that makes this open field tackle that much tougher. And you have to deal with an offensive lineman that's also leaking down the field. So two misses his tackle while getting blocked, and then you get some good blocks down the field. Is that a block in the back? I don't know, and I don't really care. And this ends up being a 30-yard gain right here from Duke Watson, who in his own right is a very, very, very good running back. So here at the end, we get to a few of the better running backs that Clemson faced, and man, they went up against some studs. All three of these backs we're going to break down, or actually all four of them, are in the NFL right now, three of which were drafted. So once again, Clemson being aggressive, blitzing right here. Drone sees Bashal Tootin floating right here. This is a little bit more excusable from Clemson's defensive front because Drones just flat out makes a play. It's hard if you're a Clemson linebacker thinking that the running back isn't going to leak out, but Drone sees all the space over here. Once again, Clemson doesn't account for Bashal Tutin, one of the better pass-catching speedster backs out there. And once again, Clemson gives up a lot of receptions to running backs. There's nobody else on the screen here that you're currently watching, and obviously Tutin and Caden Durham honestly are very similar backs, and Tutin is able to make a guy miss and pick up some extra yards right here for Virginia Tech. Second half, very first play, so very similar to what LSU does, very similar to what you saw versus NC State. Let's just start off with a design throw to the running back out of the backfield, but this is more of a pure screen instead of like a leak where you have a few blockers down the field. Now this time, the Clemson defenders do a better job, or at the very least, Peter Woods does a better job seeing that this is a screen. But watch what happens. You get good blocking down the field. These Clemson defenders in space can get a little clunky. 10 loses his contain right here, tries to cut to the inside to make the tackle. Reed cuts here and then bounces because of a good block. Woods tackles basically his own guy, and now Reed is off to the races down the sideline. And now you need Mickens, who's no longer with Clemson, to make the tackle, and he does, right? Mickens, a very, very good player last year for the Tigers. And then this right here is the sexiest design, and this, man, it really, really, really is creative stuff. This is one of the more underrated plays in all of college football, but for it to work, you've got to have the protection, okay? So you'll see right here, Reed is in the backfield, and you see his stats, 10 catches for close to 100 yards, a running back out of the backfield. Clemson actually calls the worst play versus this because they're bringing a third level blitz. They do get a little unlucky on this, that they're running a running back go basically. So Pitt gets the exact look that they want versus this, and now a linebacker is man-to-man versus a running back here, and all the quarterback needs to do, this linebacker's thinking, hey, they've been running a lot of outs with the running backs out of the backfield. This time, instead of running an out, we're running a go. We're getting vertical, and this ends up being a really, really, really good throw right here. And, man, this ends up being a better touchdown saving tackle right here by 0. And, man, that is some really, really, really good stuff, but it's still a nice explosive gain. Now, this is something we really didn't see Caden Durham do last year. We saw Jayden Ott of Oklahoma do some of this. I'll link the film study down below on that, but this is honestly some really exotic stuff. 5 wide. Once again, that is very difficult to do versus this Clemson front. And this time, Pitt picks up the nickel blitz right here, and you get exactly what you want. Man-to-man right here, this is a running back running behind the slot receiver. You're hoping the slot receiver can get vertical, create some traffic right here. And either way, Reed does a good job selling that he might actually be running a shallow drag. And you could see that this linebacker starts to shift this way. Instead, he shifts back out into the flats. It's an easy read for the quarterback right here. And now let's force them to make a tackle in this spot. And once again, Clemson cannot make it. All right, 0 made the touchdown saver a minute ago. Can't do it there this time, right? Tackling in space was not Clemson's specialty last year. And basically, Pitt scores. So one of the better games at college football last season came from Lenore Sellers versus Clemson. He ran for 166, but threw for only 164, and 37 of those yards happened just on basic, easy screens, and that's exactly what happens here. So they set up a screen to the left, taking advantage of the Clemson aggressiveness on the defensive line, and now you have a 3v1. All we need is these 3 guys to make this block right here. It does look as if South Carolina might have got away with a little tug, but, you know, you would like to think most offensive linemen are finding a way to get this done, and it's just so much space for the big Rocket Sanders to get down field, right? And honestly, if this was blocked a little bit better, this could have gone for extra yardage here. So now we get to crunch time, fourth quarter. And if you're enjoying this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. And guess what? You get, once again, exactly what you want, a twist or a loop, if you will, being run by the DTs over the middle. And the looping DT, Peter Woods, you're running the screen away from him. And once again, this Clemson aggressive defensive line, they were not the best at retracing their steps versus screens, and now you got a lot of space to operate. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Rocket Sanders actually gives 53 time to set up this block. 76 is able to come back and make this block right here. But if you are able to read the screen just a little bit sooner, this gets run down from behind by one of your DTs, right? Lost his footing there for a little bit. 76 did a good job peeling back. So maybe 55 is able to make that tackle before Rocket Sanders gets frisky here for a 17-yard gain. All right. Once again, Sellers struggled in this game throwing the ball, but those easy receptions eat up yardage. So from an LSU vantage point, this would be the toughest to replicate right here because SMU had actually been setting this play up. They had run quite a few of these QB powers, counters, if you will, where the QB just runs into the line of scrimmage. But this time, they actually stop and allowed this wheel right here from Brashard Smith to get open. And the corner is obviously running with the inbreaker right here. And look at this. Nobody keeps up with the running back. Even Kevin Jennings was allowed to pump fake, sit right here, make himself a good ham and cheese sandwich, and is still able to complete a wide open touchdown to Brashard Smith. Nasty stuff. And you'll see how difficult it is to key this, right? If you're looking at this from a Clemson vantage point, you can see that they were playing this QB run, and nobody dealt with the running back into the flats. Now, you can make a case that the corner is supposed to let this receiver go and him pick that up, but it just depends. If it is a man-to-man coverage assignment or, in more specificity, a Meg call right here where it is man everywhere he goes, you obviously run with him everywhere he goes. That could have been the call right there. But whatever it was, it is an easy pitch and catch touchdown right here by Jennings that every single quarterback that has ever existed would be able to complete. So Sark is obviously one of the best play callers in the SEC. Actually, I'll just say it. He is the best, especially with Quinn Ewers as your quarterback. This is just really good stuff. This is more so the Louisville screen that you saw, and you could see that there actually is a lot of traffic to run through here. You could see Clemson has underneath linebackers ready to make plays versus this, and, well, it still works, right? You get a good block down the field from the receiver here, get a good block here, but there's still a guy here to make this play. You just got to hope a guy like, Caden Durham is able to make a guy miss. And, well, Blue is able to do just that. One of the best pass-catching running backs in the SEC over the past couple of seasons. And you can see Clemson did have some tackling issues tackling the running backs out of the backfield. So, obviously, Clemson defensively had its issues. They go get Tom Allen, the big-time defensive coach from Penn State. And, well, does he fare better guarding running backs out of the backfield? Well, you could see kind of like what we saw with that Brashard Smith touchdown. This guy, Travion Henderson, who is a better pass-catching back than anyone we've broken down today, just unaccounted for out of the backfield. Allen was, overall, just on a quick glance, a better defensive play caller versus running backs. 6, of course, is just an amazing safety, and he's able to tackle Travion in the open field. I want to show you this from the USC game, a game that they almost did indeed lose. That Woody Marks had a really good receiving day, right? This screen wasn't the worst defended screen ever. This is more so really good running, but Could I see a world where Caden Durham is as good, if not better, than Woody Marks next year? Abso-freaking-lutely, especially in the open field. I think Durham is indeed faster than the Texans' third-round pick. But the real benefit of this play is actually shown from the in-zone Skycam here. This obviously is the best pass rusher, maybe in the NFL here in a few years, but definitely the best last year in college football. And Abdul Carter, many feel Parker for Clemson, number 3, is the best pass rusher this year. Obviously, LSU feels comfortable with what they have at left tackle with Tyree Adams, but this is obviously a mismatch, even though USC's tackles last year, at least to my knowledge, were good. Obviously, this helps slow down and, more importantly, on this play in particular, mitigate the pass rush, right? You can get beat and then release down the field. Obviously, the tackle was releasing and letting him go the entire way. And this right here helps take away one of Clemson and Penn State's strengths, right? It's just one easy throw right here in the flat. And you get some good blocking down the field by Clemson, but because Penn State was a bunch of savages on defense, Woody Marks still had a lot of work to do to turn this into a big, big, big gain. Another note, and we won't break down these plays for this film study, but Notre Dame's Aeneas Williams had a good day catching the football out of the backfield. There's also a few different things you could do with your RBs. This right here, Aeneas Williams had a big day catching the football. Now, I will say a lot of his receptions were in a 2-minute drill with a backup quarterback at the end of the first step, but he did have 60-plus yards receiving, and most of it came on this play. There's a man coverage indicator, motion. You bring your running back here. He's man-to-man versus a linebacker. It's cut off here. Why not take advantage of this matchup versus single high? Let's see if Aeneas Williams, a running back, can get past a traditional linebacker. Can you trust somebody like Caden Durham in a position like this as more of a receiver on this double move? Maybe so. I would trust him versus most linebackers in this situation, and you see an absolute massive, massive, massive gain right here. So much of our focus from an LSU side of thing has been mostly Durham, but Caleb Jackson has improved as a pass catcher and overall pass blocker. So, one thing that we saw from the Clemson defense is some of it were screens, some of which were just checkdowns, and Caleb Jackson was really good after the catch. You could see him breaking tackles. 20 was a first-round pick, essentially, by the Cleveland Browns this past year. So, that's an elite linebacker that he made miss. And then on the very next play, LSU, once again, in the hurry-up here, or hurry-ish up, Garrett says, look, let me feed Caleb again. Everybody's playing back to stop our speedy wide receivers. Let's play check down ball. And once again, this is an NFL linebacker. Caleb Jackson is making miss, and then he puts this guy into the underworld right here and basically picks up a first down after the catch. But the truth is, it is all about the Caden Durham show this year for LSU. In particular, as a pass catcher, he might be the most naturally gifted receiver out of the backfield I have ever seen at LSU. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is up there, but Durham, when it comes to just that explosiveness, is just truly on a different playing field, right? And if you're a Clemson fan watching this, Durham profiles very similarly to that of Jaden Blue, who you saw a little bit earlier. And Blue obviously hurts you more on just basic handoffs than actual receiving, which is what Blue is really known for. But from the LSU side of things, yes, you want to get Caden Durham the football, but Durham needs to improve as a pass protector. He was one of the lowest PFF pass protectors in all of college football last year. And the truth is, the other experienced back for LSU, Josh Williams, also struggled in pass protection last year. So it very well could be Caleb Jackson, who had good pass protection grades per PFF, but it was a way smaller sample because obviously he was the distant third string back. Now, once again, if you're watching this and you're a Clemson fan, I do also want to point out that Harlem Berry is probably a more naturally gifted wide receiver who just happens to play running back. Because, man, his wide receiver stuff in 7-on-7 is truly insane. But Harlem Berry is also going to be a factor for LSU this year, but maybe not so much in this first game versus Clemson. Now, there will be more breakdowns on how I think LSU could get really creative with the RB pass game versus Clemson and other teams. That'll be available on my personal Patreon, patreon.com/LSU football. And, man, Caden Durham, if Clemson fans, you're about to figure out, man, 2.9 is a different animal. Reminds you a little bit of that Etienne guy in many ways, but probably a little bit faster. So, man, it's going to be a fun battle. And look, from the LSU side of things, it makes a lot of sense to utilize this because, well, your pass protection is going to have a tough time with Clemson's front. And the best thing about running back receptions is that they are quick. And I am of the belief that running back receptions honestly helps defend the pass rush, right? It's just one more thing that the other team's pass rush has to worry about, which means defensive linemen need to do a good job of retracing their steps and getting back into the screen game, right? That was something you saw Clemson really struggle with. On that Pitt play in particular, Peter Woods almost made the play, but the tacklers behind them lost their leverage. So, man, it's going to be tough, but if I'm LSU, I'm just peppering them with RB targets out of the backfield. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Tonight, we are doing Steaks.